Hey, welcome to the City Rev Life podcast. My name is Pastor Roby, and I'm here with the distinguished Reverend Dr. Juan Elswick. I call him Juan Elswick because he's my hermano cubano, John Elswick. Welcome.
Good to be with you. Before we get started, there's just something very important that I want to share.
Right.
I learned some information before the podcast started that I think everybody in your church is going to appreciate.
Oh, great.
This is insider baseball right now for just a second. Before we get to the topic.
Oh, good.
Did you guys know that Dr. Robert Grable Barnes, your pastor,
The third,
third,
to be precise.
cuts his own hair?
Yeah, it's true.
So when you see a really good cut on a Sunday morning,
Yes.
I just said to him,
Or just to cut across my face because I missed. That would also be my
I
fault.
said to him, all the respect I already have for him, when I found out that you cut your own hair, it like bumped up. So I just thought that'd be a good way to get started.
might tutor you, John, as
Maybe
to
you can
cutting
cut my
your own
hair.
hair.
Yes.
So I believe in you. You too. You
do
too
it.
can cut your own hair. But that's another podcast for another day. We are in a hot takes podcast, which means John and I have no idea what we're talking about.
That makes it exciting.
Well, I would say most podcasts we don't know what we're talking about, but we actually don't know the topic that we're going to be talking about. So the team has supplied us this envelope right here. And we are going to open this up right now, and we have to answer this live.
all right.
There was a little bit of like a gleeful look in the communications team when they gave this to us, so I'm a little bit nervous. But let's see what it says. And it's always interesting. All right, here's the subject today. Is the rise of Christian merch in the last decade a powerful tool for cultural influence? Or are we just turning faith into a brand and calling it ministry? Has it helped the church engage the world or distracted us from what really matters?
Christian merch.
Christian merch. There
I'll
you
just
go.
start by one statement, which is I would first of all say that Christian merch has not just been around the last decade.
I was thinking the same thing. You
that-
go. Because
yes.
we're a product of the 90s up top right
100%,
here.
100%,
For the
yes.
days of the OG days of the WWJD bracelet.
WWJD bracelet.
Yes.
Go Against the Flow shirt. Did you ever have one
Oh
of those?
yeah, that was
Against the Flow.
that was on the wall of my youth group growing up. Go Against the Flow. It was all actually made a comeback in the Chosen opening. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that because Christian merch has been around that long. That flow, the Go Against the Flow, yes, and the Chosen. When I was in 8th grade, a vivid actual memory. When I was in 8th grade, my youth pastor had hand-drawn shirts that we had. All right. So the youth group name was Life Living. It was an acronym, Living in Faith Every Day. And so he was letters, and in the letters was the face of Jesus like crucified.
Dang.
It was a whole thing. Anyway, I would wear that often, tucked into jean shorts
With the braided belt.
With the braided belt, and I distinctly remember a girl saying, "Do you have any other shirts?" Because I wore it that
Other
often.
than that one.
Yeah. So Christian merch, I've been doing that for a long time.
I feel like we can speak with some expertise on that, having grown up in the heyday of
Yes,
Christian merch.
Absolutely.
So, all right. I think let's maybe start with, I think actually this is relevant. So let's maybe start with the 90s, because I think the 90s expression of Christian merch, I think is a little different than today's expression.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that, and I think what's happening in both those decades, our decade now and then the 90s, had different implications. So the 90s was a time of creating Christian subculture. And I do think there was a danger with that. So the different approaches to culture, there's one of the ways we talk about at City Rev, there you can have the against culture view. So, we kind of define ourselves by what we're against. There's the approximate culture view. So that's like take culture and create a Christian version of it. There's the assimilate culture view where it's like, it's fine. If that's the flow of culture, we adopt it, which obviously would be unbiblical. Or then there's the effect culture view, which is that step in and transform it. I think the 90s merch was an approximate culture, which I think the danger with that is by creating a subculture, you can't affect and influence culture, which is I think what we're called to do.
Part of the approximate thing in the 90s was even with Christian music
Yeah.
and the way Christian music was articulated.
Yeah.
So before you had Apple Music or Spotify, you would go to a Christian bookstore,
Yeah.
Lifeway or whatever, and they would have a chart. I don't know if you remember the chart, and it'd be like, if you like Pearl Jam, you will like this. And it would literally have lists
Yes.
of like secular music or
Right.
whatever, and then the Christian alternative to it, which
Right.
is sort of an approximate. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it certainly did go a long way of that subculture creation like you're describing.
And I do think there were some bad things about it.
Yeah.
Because I think the divide between the secular and sacred is not helpful, not
Yes.
biblical. I think to say all secular music was bad and all Christian music is good is just not true. Like
Yeah.
there's actually some very powerful redemptive music that's not belonging to a Christian label. And there was some Christian music that was not good at all. Not just like artistically not good, but
Yeah.
just the messaging was not good.
yeah.
There's also like when YouTube launched. Do you remember the Christian alternative to YouTube? GodTube.
I do remember.
GodTube. So I think that
It was subpar though.
yeah. And well, that's usually what the case is.
Right.
So the subculture, it's just mimicking culture rather than entering in. And the problem is we need Christians in the music industry influencing culture. We can't pull out and abandon culture. So I think when I think of the Christian merch from that standpoint, it's like I'm more Christian because I'm not wearing my No Fear shirt. I'm wearing my what was the Christian version of that? Do you remember
I
that
don't
one?
remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was like
Yes, I
I remember. There was this brand in the 90s. It was like No Fear, and they had all these like you can do it kind of like phrases. And then I think the Christian version was No Fear, like
K-N-O-W.
K-N-O-W.
Yeah,
Like,
K-N-O-W.
Fear the Lord is the beginning of knowledge would be underneath it or whatever.
Instead of
Okay.
Gold's Gym, the Lord's
The
Gym.
Lord's Gym, exactly, yeah, and so there is that approximate culture, the Christian subculture. I think the danger is we're usually artistically it's nowhere as good and it's not creating which we're supposed to do in the image of God. It's also not affecting and influencing culture, and it also carries with it a negative view that culture itself in and of itself is bad. Why not look at culture, see some of the things that are redeemable, whether made by a Christian or not, and harness those things and speak to them. So
The only thing I'd say is on the other side, the devil's advocate side,
Okay.
I guess would be, I do
so
think
you're
that
you're associating yourself with the
with
devil's
the
advocate.
devil.
I just want
So
to make
now
sure
that
we're
I would
clear.
like to share the devil's opinion.
Okay.
No, I think that there's, for some people and a lot of people, there's like an earnestness to it.
Okay.
I think growing up, there's an earnest, like when I wore a Christian Go Against the Flow,
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be like, let me be like them. And, I really
Yeah.
was trying to be different in a good way.
Yeah.
I was trying to be different in a, like, let's spark a conversation, or I want to be bold about my faith and,
Yes.
that kind of thing. I think that's a piece of it. There can be dangers to it on the subculture side.
That's fair.
Where it's just like this insular thing. But I think there also can be an earnestness to it of like, hey, if people can be bold about whatever
Yeah.
their thing is,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like so afraid of Jesus. I want to be bold about Jesus. And I think that was part of what was driving a lot of it in the early days, at least
Yeah.
our early days.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. And I would say, I think that sentiment, it more matches what's happening today.
Okay.
So whereas, this is my opinion, I think whereas in the 90s, it seemed a little bit, there was a general theme of like come out of the world and create a subculture. Although in fairness to what you're saying, I think that wasn't everybody. And I think a lot of it was well-intentioned. But I think today it seems a little bit more like, hey, this is what's most important to me. I want to reflect that.
Yeah. And I just say one more thing about subculture. I agree with you. And sometimes subculture is necessary. So sometimes you do have to create a Christian music label back in the day before you could get the music out, because the other quote unquote secular labels wouldn't produce your music and they wouldn't distribute your music.
Okay.
So there's sometimes that can be, but if we're not wise about it, then it can become absolutely insular, and it's just to ourselves, and we're not making a broader, difference.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Point taken. Fair enough. So then the question specifically is the rise of Christian merch in the last decade a powerful tool for cultural influence, or are we just turning faith into a brand and calling it ministry? Has it helped the church engage the world or distract us from what really matters? John?
Yeah, I don't know that. It probably isn't that as big of a deal as like we'd hope. Man, if I grew up wearing Christian shirts all the
Yeah.
time. If I just wear this, it's going to change. I don't know that it changed much world, except that 8th grade girl going, "Is that the only shirt you own?" You know. But I think for the individual Christian, like let's take out how it impacts South Florida. I don't know that it's going to make a massive impact
Yeah.
on South Florida. But if you're an individual Christian and you love the Lord and you can wear something that reflects your love for the Lord, yes, I think you should do it. I think it's awesome. And I think it's great to be bold. It strikes conversations at our church. Our tagline is Jesus changes everything. We have these shirts that Jesus changes everything real big on them. It's always striking conversations, usually with other believers, honestly, like, man, I love your shirt. And so I think there's something beautiful about that. Do I think it's affecting culture? Probably not in massive ways.
Yeah.
But for the individual Christian to go, I can represent Jesus in this way, I love it.
So would it be fair to say it's not so the question is it a powerful tool? Is it fair to say it's not a powerful tool?
I don't think it's a powerful tool.
Yeah. Is it influencing culture? I might say I think it's only influencing culture if it comes in tandem with a influential life. So I think what's more important is someone's lifestyle and the way they live in the world. And because let's say you're wearing a Christian shirt and you don't have compassion, you don't work hard at your work, you don't work with excellence, all your coworkers always picking up your slack, you're late to work, you're not living a way that's generous and life-giving and encouraging and uplifting to your coworkers, and then you wear a Christian shirt, that's actually probably having that's doing more damage. But if you live a life where people are like, whoa, what is different about you? Like you're so giving, you're self-sacrificing, you're generous. You're also like, you have a disciplined life where you're working with excellence and your bosses are saying, man, I wish all my employees worked as hard as you and did as excellent work as you. You're not just on time, you're 5 minutes early. Like if we're living lives that look like that, then we're living lives like Daniel and Daniel's excellence. Yeah. They attributed, especially later in his ministry, they would attribute it to God. So when there's a handwriting on the wall and they're like, oh no, the next generation after Nebuchadnezzar, they're like, who can interpret this? And Nebuchadnezzar's wife, the queen mother, she's like, well, there's this guy named Daniel and he's excellent in all he does because the Spirit of God is in him.
Yeah.
And so if the Christian merch is it might help a powerful life.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the merch itself is doing anything. And in fact, if it comes with an uninspiring and unchristian life, it's actually probably doing more harm.
So don't wear City Rev merch if you're not going to show up to work on time, all right? Don't be the slacker.
There you go.
Don't put the City Rev sticker on your car if you're going to be cutting people
if you're
off.
going to do that, put a Crossway sticker on your car.
I love that idea.
I'm kidding.
I think that the big idea there is that the most important thing is the actual quality of your life.
Yeah.
And that should flow out from it. But it's a wonderful expression.
It is.
And I will say that
I like the boldness of it.
I love the boldness of it. And I think there's like an artistic component to it, right?
Sure.
So you're an artist, you're someone who's a designer, you love fashion. And I'm trying to think, how do I create fashion for the glory of God? Yeah. Good quality fashion is to the glory of God. And sometimes an explicit message of who Jesus is or what he's done is for the glory of God too. So I think both those things can go together and just make sure your life is congruent with your message.
I like the expression of someone just like, listen, I'm all in for Jesus. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm all in for Jesus. And I would just say the other thing would be, I don't want to take it so far to say like, hey, if your life is not perfect yet, don't wear Christian merch. I think a better approach is, if we own the gospel, then we know that we have things that God's still working on, and we can be open about that. So when someone asks about our shirt, hey, you're a Christian, you'd be like, listen, I am a Christian, and I know that I'm not perfect, but I am trying. And so someone who's like authentically trying and can be open about their shortcomings, I think the world appreciates and can at least value that kind of humility. So
I think that's great. And the other thing I think is positive on the Christian merch side is when you're living an honest life, meaning like, okay, sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you're doing well, whatever. You're living an authentic life amongst other people. One of the biggest challenges, I remember one time Tim Keller was talking to pastors and he's talking about, pastors trying to help Christians live on mission in their workplaces. And he said, hey, here's the problem. The problem is that a lot of people at work haven't even gotten to the place where other people know that they're believers. So like they're doing, but they've never broached it. They've never said, this weekend I was at church or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Okay, so that same thing happens with your neighbors, right? Some of you like your neighbors. So I think that if you're living a life where you're trying to honor the Lord, sometimes these little things of a Christian shirt, a church shirt about your church, whatever it is, can be a little indicator of like, oh, I'm a Christian. That could spark a conversation or at least an identification with who I am following, and the Lord could use it. So I do think the Lord could use it in that way as well.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, can I just augment the conversation just a little bit? Let's just move it from Christian merch to church merch for a second.
Okay.
City Rev has church merch.
Right.
Crossway has church merch. I think it's positive. Obviously, we think it's positive, or we wouldn't have it. So like we're obviously for it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it helps people identify with the body they belong to.
Yeah.
I think there's some real positive ways that which is important for people to feel like they're part of it. But can we talk about the downside of it? Is there a danger in church merch? Is there a way that can it be taken to a place where it turns the church into a brand? Is there a downside to church merch, or is there something that you guys at Crossway think through, or you think through when it comes to how we're going to do this in a way that's healthy and not hurtful?
I mean, if you're charging $1,000 for a shirt, like there might be a danger. If you buy our shirt, you can have lunch with the pastor. Might be a danger. I think.
Wait, is that how I get lunch with you?
That's how we do
buy
it.
a shirt?
Yeah, and cut my hair. I think like on the average everyday church scenario, and they're making some shirts or hats or whatever, I don't see a big danger. I do think, like you said, it is identification with the community. And I think people love it. Hey, we're part of this community. You're wearing the shirt. We wear that shirt. And, I don't know. Am I missing something? Do you feel
obviously
like
I'm for it because we have it. And
but is there a line in which you go, we do have it, but we wouldn't want to cross this line because at that point it would be.
I do think there is a space where and merch is not the deciding factor.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a space when we're thinking about church where like there is what we would say biblically an ecclesiology, a theology of church. What is the theology of church? It's very explicitly described in the Bible, but that's not necessarily intuitive to our generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so our generation is typically approaching church, and our generation, I'm not talking about like Gen X or millennial. I'm just saying this present moment. Like they approach church usually as it's a platform I follow.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could follow this YouTuber, but I follow, this church. Or it's a nonprofit that I support. Or in some cases, it is kind of a brand that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those are unhealthy, unbiblical views that have like just a piece of it, but that's not what a church. Church is a body. We're a family. We're a house. These are some of the languages that and as a house, I'm not meaning the actual physical building. Like we're the living stones of the building. So we're a house. We're a body. We're all parts of the body. We're a family. We're all members of the family. Like these are the images that we belong together. But if we're not careful, I think sometimes as church leaders, we can't, if we're not careful, we're not correcting the false view of the understanding of church. And so I don't think merch is the deciding factor, but merch could play, if it's not handled correctly, I think could play into one of those false views of what church is.
Okay, so just a revision of
what I said earlier. Devil's advocate again?
No, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
That was great. And it made me think about just this one simple thing, which I agree, merch is not the issue because I'm for it. But because sometimes people people identify in their own way what it means to be a part of City Rev, right? So some people like, I've been there 3 times, that's my church.
Yeah.
And on the 3rd time I bought one of their shirts, that's my church. And so I'm identifying with the church, but it's like a very easy level, low level identification, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it is important to go, it's not just I wear the shirt, or I bought it once I went there and I thought that was cool. It's like I'm deeply embedded in the life of this community. And so to the degree someone just sees it and goes, I identify it like a brand, or that's the place I go, but I'm not deeply involved. Yeah, I would say buy the shirt and be engaged.
Yeah. I agree. But ultimately, I would say, obviously we do it. I think we're for it. I think because it reinforces what should already be there: ways to serve, ways to give, ways to find community, ways to participate, way to be a part of the family. I think the idea is it reinforces a sense of belonging. Yeah. It's not the exclusive part of belonging, but it reinforces an involvement in the family of God in the body of Christ in the living house that God's building. Right?
Absolutely. I think you're right.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
My last thought is that yes, you should rock church merch and you should be bold about it.
Yeah.
And you should pray that when you wear it, a good conversation comes up and you're able to, the Lord would leverage it for you to share Jesus and invite someone to your church. That's what I think you should do.
Yeah. You know what? And I think, let me revise something I said. Is it a powerful tool? Anything is a powerful tool if God decides to do something powerful through it.
Yeah.
There was a woman once that was sitting in line at school, and she saw a City Rev decal on the back of the car in front of her. And she's just sitting there waiting to pick up her kids in the carpool line. And she's like, what else do I have to do? And she Googled the church and found a new church home from that.
That's awesome.
So it's like, you know what? Is the shirt itself, like, do I have an expectation that's going to change the world? No. But I like what you're saying. God can use anything to do something powerful through it. And so if it creates a positive conversation, hey, it's offering our loaves and fish to Jesus. We're not going to be able to feed the multitude, but if Jesus gets a hold of it, he can do whatever he wants. So someone whose heart is in the right place, whether it's Christian merch or their church merch, maybe God could do something powerful through it, especially if they surrender that to him.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of the City Rev Life podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the City Rev Life podcast. Feel free to subscribe and leave a rate and review. We love it when you share it with your friends on social media, so don't forget to tag us at cityrev.church. If you're interested in more resources, download our City Rev Church app and follow us on social media. Have a great day.